All right, so that should give you an idea of how to go about measuring these and checking if you got these exactly right. So I think 110 and 40 are good estimates. Now take your protractor and make sure your vertex lines up, or like your crosshairs lines up right on that vertex. Line up one of your 0 lines with your uh, line here. You could also line it up with this one. Either way is fine. And make sure that you're starting at 0 and counting up. You're not starting at 180 and counting down. Okay, now let's go to drawing our own angles. So at the bottom of this page, we have an example here. It says construct each angle using a protractor. So it says like draw a 44-degree angle. So the first step is that you're going to draw a straight line, and you're going to just use the edge of your protractor like a ruler. Okay, so you've got your protractor here. Use this straight side here as a ruler, and you're going to draw a line. Okay, when you do that, be careful that then you don't go straight to measuring. Okay, there's a crosshair that you need to line up your protractor with first. You need to take that crosshair and then line it up on wherever the edge of your angle is going to be. So what I like to do is that wherever I'm going to measure my angle from, to just put a dot to remind me that that's where I need to line up my crosshairs with. You don't have to put that dot on the end, like you could put that dot right here, but wherever you put that dot, that's where you're going to line up your crosshair, and that's where you need to draw your angle from. Okay. If my dot is here, my angle needs to come out of here. If I draw my dot here and lined up my protractor there, my angle needs to come out of there. Otherwise, you're going to get wonky measurements. Okay, so let me give you a kind of visual example of what that looks like here. So first off, you're drawing a straight line, and then you're lining up your protractor with the edge of that line. Okay, you're taking the crosshairs, lining it up with the edge. Then you're going to find out what's the angle that I need to measure. And so in this case, they're measuring a 50-degree angle. So they went to starting at 0, counted up to 50, and they drew a little dot or a dash or line, whatever it is that you want to draw there. Okay, something to mark where that is. Then you can pick up your protractor and use a ruler, or typically I just use the flat edge of my protractor, and then draw a straight line between those. And you've now drawn your angle, and you can just label it inside there with what it is. 50 degrees. So that's what you would do here. Okay, so you would measure, you would line up your crosshair here, and then you would find your 44 degrees on here, and you'd make a little mark, and then you'd use the flat edge of your protractor to then draw a straight line there. So those ones are pretty straightforward, as long as you're careful to make sure that you're lining up your crosshairs in the right spot. This one normally stumps people if they don't hear how to do it first. Okay, don't worry about this little negative sign there. Okay, if we're trying to do a 300-degree angle, what do? Because a protractor only goes up to 180. Okay, it starts at 0 and goes to 180. 300 is bigger than that. So there's a trick to this. Okay, some people will sometimes say like, "Oh, I'll draw a straight line." Like this would be 180. So then if I flip it upside down, I could add, another 120 and do it that way. You can. It gets a little messy, and it can be easy to make mistakes. What I would recommend doing is, well, let's just start with like this. Okay, here's my straight line, and I know that 300 is going to be somewhere around here. Okay, how do I know that? Well, I know to go a quarter turn is 90, another quarter turn is 180, another quarter turn is 270, and a little bit more would give me 300. Okay, so there's my estimate. So I know it's going to be somewhere around here. This is difficult to measure with the protractor. This is my 300. This smaller angle here, though, is not. Okay, that is easy to measure with protractor as long as you know what that angle is. Obviously, the question doesn't tell us, but we know that to go in a full circle is 360 degrees. So this angle and this angle together will make 360. So all I need to say is like 300 plus what will give me 360? Well, that would be 60 degrees right there. 300 plus 60 will give me 360. Sometimes the numbers won't quite be so round, and if you're not sure, like if the question asked you for like a 198 or something, okay, and you weren't able to do that in your head, well, what in your calculator you do is just say 360, subtract this part, will give you what's left. Subtract 198 will give you your answer. Okay, in this case, it's nice and round though, so we can just say 60. So then you're just going to draw a 60-degree angle and then label the big side of it 300, and you're done. All right, so here's some more terminology. Okay, on the next page here, it talks about supplementary and complementary angles. Okay, supplementary angles are two angles that add, or their sum, okay, add to 180 degrees. Okay, so supplementary angles are two angles that add to 180 degrees. Complementary angles are two angles that add, or their sum is 90 degrees. Okay, all this is the same. Two angles that add to 180, two angles that add to 90. Okay, here is a typo. Okay, this is supposed to be supplementary. So why do we care about this? Okay, this is not actually just useless terminology. This is very helpful when we're thinking about these kind of missing angles here. So we've said that a half turn is 180 degrees. So we know that going from here to here is 180. If you split at that somewhere, this side and this side are still going to add up to be 180 degrees. Maybe this side is 60 and this side's 120, but together it's still a half turn. Okay? Or if you split it right down the middle, you'd have 90 on this side and 90 on this side, but together it's still 180. Okay, so anytime you have a straight line, which is what we have right here, and it gets split, we know that this angle and this angle together will make 180 because that's a half turn. So we just need to say, you can think of this in two ways. You can think of it as 105 plus what will give us 180. And you could maybe do that mentally. Or the more calculator-friendly way of doing this would be to say, I have 180 degrees total. I'm going to take away 105 of them and find out what's left. Is equal to what? That's my answer. Okay, so either way you do this is fine. In this case, the answer ends up being 75. So this is 75 because 105 plus 75 degrees gives me 180. This one here is a little bit trickier. Okay, similar idea. These three angles together are all going to add up to 180 because it's still a half turn. It's still all going to add to 180. But here I know this one and I don't know these two. So to start though, let's just figure out what's this whole section here. Okay, we know this section. What's that section? So that would be 180, subtract that 42, would give us what's left right here. So that'd be 140, 138. Okay, so this whole thing here is 138. But now we want to know what just one of these parts is. Because these are both labeled with X, we know that these are the same. Okay, so we can't have like this one be 10 and this one be 5 or something. Okay, we know they have to be the same. They both have to be like 10 and 10. And we know that together they add up to 138. So each of these is going to be half of 138. So we can just take that and split it in half, like divide it by 2, and figure out that each of these ones then, each of these ones will be 69 degrees. Okay, that's about as hard as that gets. Okay, so we had to find out the big chunk first and then say that each of those is half of that. These ones are the exact same idea, except they're saying complementary angles. Okay, it's saying that like this here is a right angle. Okay? This is a right angle, which means that it's 90 degrees. So this and this together are going to make 90 degrees. So like 70 plus what is going to give us 90 degrees? Well, that would be 20 degrees is what we would need. So this one then must be 20 degrees. Okay, we could also have said 90 take away 70, and that would give us 20 as well. And for this one, we're saying like 62 plus what will give us 90 degrees. And in this case, it would be 28. So 28 degrees. Now, this chart just says like, here's our starting angle, what's its complement, what's its supplement. Okay, complement, remember, is what adds up to, complement adds up to 90 degrees, and supplement adds up to 180 degrees. So 45 plus what would give us 90 degrees? That would be 45 more degrees. 45 and 45 together make 90. 45 and what would give us 180? So like, what's the supplement angle for 45? if you weren't able to do it mentally, you could say like 180 subtract 45 in your calculator, and that would give you 135 degrees. Okay. So you'll do that for each one of these. And some of these here, like this one's bigger than 90 degrees. So like 90, or there's nothing we can add to this to give 90. So you could just mark this with an X and say this one doesn't have a complement. You could do negative numbers, like you could subtract numbers from here to get 90, but for this one, it's fine to just put it in X. There's nothing you're going to add for this one, this one, or this one, because they're all bigger than 90. And this one is also bigger than 180, so we can't add anything there. So these ones are just going to fill in with the rest. 78 plus 12 degrees would give you 90, and 78 plus 102 degrees would give you 180, and so on. All right, and that's it for this lesson. So it's really just like get familiar with your 90, 180, 270, 360 degree angles. Use those as reference points, estimates, and anytime you see a right angle that's being split, you know that those two angles together have to add up to 90. And anytime you see a straight line that's being split somehow, like that, or maybe even by a couple lines, you know that all those angles together will add up to 180. And that's pretty much it. We're going to use this stuff a lot in the lessons to come, so this is really good practice for that. Good luck.